That is, what does an ecosystem on the Bitcoin standard look like? Because Bitcoin is, to our earlier conversation, it's not gold. It's better than gold. It's different than gold. There is a lot of capital tied up in Bitcoin. What are the things that we can be doing as a Bitcoin standard company to support that growth? Is it financial services? Is it consumer-facing products? Is it related to putting things into Bitcoin L2s, or do we want to start getting into swaps? What are the things we can do to get people using the Bitcoin ecosystem?
Bitcoin's role as a store of value, how American Bitcoin is structuring its mining and treasury models, why major political and business figures are abandoning real estate for digital assets, and how the United States is positioning itself to dominate Bitcoin infrastructure in the next decade. Please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. You can also check out our other videos on cryptocurrencies and the overall digital asset space, and drop your comments and observations in the comment section below. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel's growth. Thanks, and enjoy the video.
Bitcoin offers the average American this off-ramp from the fiat debasement situation that really before there was no good outcome. Your options were other fiat currencies, real estate, as we've discussed. You could buy some shiny rocks. Gold's been on a bit of a tear itself. Like, there's really nothing great about that as when it comes to a good store of value and something that has a compelling use case or financial future for the country. I'm happy that the gold folks are feeling vindicated, but gold to me is not an optimistic trade. That is investing in this sort of pre-monetary system as an escape from modern day society. And look, while I'm glad folks have found a store of value that works for them, Bitcoin offers all that and more. And more people are seeing the value of having their money or their hard work stored in something that has that fungibility, that ease of transferability, that verification on the blockchain. There's a lot of value add to Bitcoin above and beyond what the gold or the gold premium would be for stored value. And that's something that I only think is going to increase.
What is then the next stage of the business? So you build up your Bitcoin base, and then what? You mentioned some of the Bitcoin treasury companies are doing preferreds or some other types of securitized instruments on top of the Bitcoin. Sort of what's the strategy that you have or you see forward?
There is a layer, in fact, beyond that one. So our business actually has 3 layers. Layer 1 is the Bitcoin mining. That's our core competency. That's effectively accumulating Bitcoin at a 50% gross margin. Layer 2, that's the treasury strategy. You've seen some of our peers using all sorts of financial techniques. We're aware of them. We are strategically doing what we want to do to grow our Bitcoin stack through the capital market side as well. But there's actually a third layer to this business, which is what we call ecosystem amplification. And there's really 2 ways I would position us for that. One is the American Bitcoin brand, and getting out there and getting known as a brand that is geared towards pure play Bitcoin accumulation. Is somewhat of a joke. Someone was telling me that when you search stocks, they can be alphabetical, and there are times where you search Bitcoin and ABTC is above BTC, which sounds great to me. But we are offering folks that Bitcoin accumulation product that the market doesn't really have in the way that we offer. There are ETFs that have 1-to-1s, and that's going well for the BlackRocks of the world, etc. There are financial strategy companies. I mean, obviously MicroStrategy or now just Strategy has pioneered a lot of those techniques. There are the miners, but for us, it's about taking the best parts of each. We want to be asset light, like we believe the best miners are. We also want to be thoughtful about liquidity and volume, like the best treasury companies. But this third level, this ecosystem play, that is where over the coming quarters, I would like to spend more of my time. That is, what does an ecosystem on the Bitcoin standard look like? Because Bitcoin is, to our earlier conversation, it's not gold. It's better than gold. It's different than gold. There is a lot of capital tied up in Bitcoin. What are the things that we can be doing as a Bitcoin standard company to support that growth? Is it financial services? Is it consumer facing products? Is it related to putting things into Bitcoin L2s, or do we want to start getting into swaps? What are the things we can do to get people using the Bitcoin ecosystem? Because all of that activity is net accretive to Bitcoin, both in the abstract sense, but also in terms of transaction fees, which routes right back to our mining business. So we're really trying to build a virtuous cycle here of mining and then treasury and then ecosystem. And collectively, you've got a pretty unique accumulator among all these Bitcoin companies.
Sort of Bitcoiners have been talking about for 10 years that government's always going to debase the currency, so we should buy hard assets, gold and Bitcoin. But I think it's interesting specifically for you because you brought 2 of the Trump sons on to your company. And it's interesting sort of where we see Bitcoin at and why billionaire real estate developers seem to be abandoning real estate and coming over to Bitcoin, which I think is pretty interesting. And I think people should be paying attention to.
No, you're exactly right. So Bitcoin is this really attractive store of value. So a lot of folks are appealed. Real estate has a lot of appeal for folks. If you think about storing value and it's their nest egg, and people are investing in their house or maybe some rental properties, what Bitcoin is offering is a much easier way to store value and store the efforts of your labor into a commodity that over time is becoming more and more valuable. And so as people get excited about buying real estate, a lot of them are realizing that, hold on, this might actually make more sense as a Bitcoin trade. And so it's no surprise to me that a family that's so steeped in real estate development would see the appeal of what we're doing. It's a heck of a lot less work to accumulate Bitcoin than it is to build enormous hotels and golf course developments. Now, building a Bitcoin mine is quite a lot of work, so we're still putting in the effort, putting steel in the ground, but it's a different sort of mission with a different sort of output.
Right. But they've been getting involved in all types of Bitcoin businesses. So from Bitcoin treasury companies, Bitcoin mining companies, Bitcoin exchanges, right? So they're almost like spreading their tentacles. And as I said, I think it's worth noting, and that's why I wanted to bring it up. You still have, interesting enough, right? We're at this time where you have Larry Fink, head of BlackRock, the largest asset manager in the world, saying to buy Bitcoin. Paul Tudor Jones has been all over the news for years, and now this week again about buying Bitcoin. And you have, president of the free world, Donald Trump buying Bitcoin, and the Trump family buying Bitcoin, and then you still have like your cousin down the street telling you it's like a scam.
Yeah, there's that old quote from I think Gibson about how the future is here, it's just not evenly distributed. And
Right.
we're starting to see that happening in real time. I remember 5, 6, 7, even 10 years ago, trying to explain to folks about Bitcoin as a inflation hedge. But that was not really getting a lot of traction. People would patiently tell me, Matt, we don't really have that. Inflation's calibrated 2% a year. We've kind of solved for that here in the United States. What's really the appeal to any sort of inflation hedge? And then now here you and I talking about debasement in real time, and suddenly that inflation hedge is looking pretty compelling.
Talking about Bitcoin as an inflation hedge sounded absurd. Today, with 40-50% increases in the money supply and equivalent jumps in the cost of gas, homes, food, and metals, the hedge looks obvious. While elite investors move aggressively into Bitcoin, many average citizens remain skeptical, a disconnect that historically precedes major technological shifts.
I mean, sure, what's wrong with 2% inflation? Well, other than losing 10% of your wealth every 5 years, I mean, sure, nothing, I guess. I would rather not lose 10% of my purchasing power every 5 years, but maybe I'm just, maybe I'm simple-minded, I don't know. And then, of course, it's not 2%. I look at inflation as the rate of that monetary debasement, right? And so you can look at the money supply. The US M2 supply has increased by 50% in the last, really 40% in the last 5 years. And how much is gas up, and how much are homes up, and how much is steak up, and how much is gold up, and right, everything's up 40-50%, right? So I think that's the real number. But I think it's exciting, not just for the debasement trade, the store value, but now all the businesses, all the industry being built out. And you talk about building infrastructure. So right now it seems like the Trump administration is really focused on making America great again, making America investable again, making America build again. And so building out the infrastructure is a big piece of that. How do you approach thinking about building out the infrastructure for America with Bitcoin mining?
In America, there's really two kinds of infrastructure we're building out. There's the physical infrastructure of the mining, and then there's the financial system infrastructure that you might find with Bitcoin treasuries. So the Trump administration has actually been fantastic for both of those. So to the mining side of the business, we have a pro-energy government. We've got folks that understand that we need more energy and we need it now. We need generative capacity. We need better transmission lines. We need more sophisticated forms of off-taking. We need to be able to trade around peaks. These are all things that Bitcoiners and Bitcoin miners have been swimming in for years. So having an administration that's genuinely bullish on the electron, it's good for us and good for what we want to do on the power side. On the treasury side, there's a whole host of financial infrastructure that's also getting built out in real time. Earlier this year, we saw the Genius Act get through the government. That was a fantastic piece of legislature. There's a few more market structure bills that are in the works. These, to me, are seminal texts. These are the sorts of laws that they're going to look back on the way that oftentimes securities lawyers look back on the 1930s as the cornerstones of what created the American financial system. We're doing that over, but we're doing it on a blockchain.
Have you experienced that? I mean, has any of that helped you? What's the experience like trying to build this infrastructure out right now?
So if we look at past administrations, same as everyone else, we're dealing with a fairly hostile environment. When it came to opening things like bank accounts, you would be one day doing business and the next day being told that you frankly weren't welcome and your money was stuck. And so we were somewhat victims of our own financial system as Americans. This is something that fortunately has really stopped. That Operation Choke Point era is over, and we're better forward as a country. So
Yeah.
those permittings and that chokehold that they had on the ins and out points of crypto were pretty serious, and things that really slowed down the ability to build this industry here in the United States. And now that that's been rectified, we're obviously seeing so many of the jobs and so much of that energy coming back stateside. American Bitcoin benefits from having that mining business, pretty big, 25 exahash today, scaling from there, and also a treasury component. So we haven't sold a single Satoshi since we listed the company in April. To your point around financial structures, we actually have access to a multi-billion-dollar at-the-market offering vehicle that we're able to use strategically to raise money to buy more Bitcoin, to cover some of these expenses. So we really haven't dipped into the till when it comes towards liquidating Satoshis and paying for things. And that's not something that we foresee doing. For us, Bitcoin is the end all be all, is what we're really geared towards accumulating. And as we think about our North Star of Bitcoin per share, I'm not really interested in things that would reduce the Bitcoin per share that I can then offer my shareholders.
Mining Bitcoin, they're selling the Bitcoin, maybe some of it they keep, but your policy is to get more Bitcoin, whether you mine it or you buy it.
Our attitude is that investors in a Bitcoin mining or a Bitcoin treasury company really want one thing, which is maximal Bitcoin. So oftentimes I really refer to American Bitcoin as a Bitcoin accumulator for that reason. We're accumulating Bitcoin. It's that simple. Some of our peers, you're right, they may want to sell, or they're trying to be strategic and trade around it. My version of strategy is dollar cost averaging into the hardest asset on earth. I'm not really interested in selling. I think that the energy arbitrage aspect is interesting, but for me, that's just one part of the operational discipline to grow your stack. So I'm very mindful of things like SG&A, very mindful of the cost of power per month, curtailment, trading, energy, things like that, but really only insofar as it allows me to hodl as much Bitcoin as possible.
Your Bitcoin mining company is not that. Your Bitcoin mining is your Bitcoin mining is part of a bigger strategy,
Correct,
of a Bitcoin accumulation engine. And the
Correct.
Bitcoin mining is one component of that business, but the overall strategy of the overriding business is to accumulate Bitcoin.
Well put. For us, the Bitcoin mining is a way to accumulate at a discount. I want as much Bitcoin as possible, as fast as possible. If there's a means for me to get it at a 50% discount, I'm going to do that as long as I can, as fast as I can. And that's what mining represents to us. It's this way for us to turn energy into Bitcoin. We can go by spot. So the things that treasury companies are doing, preferreds and converts and ATFs, these are all great financial instruments and each has its own place. But to my knowledge, the only way to accumulate any Bitcoin at a structural discount is to mine. So we struck the ground and we've been building big mines.
It looks like their costs are so high, it's not that profitable for them mining Bitcoin. What is the profitability like to mine Bitcoin right now?
So when it comes to the profitability of mining Bitcoin, I would really pull American Bitcoin out from our peer group. And here's why. If you were starting a brand new Bitcoin company today, a new Bitcoin mine specifically, you're really wanting to really buy only one thing, which is the machines. Substations, transformers, electrical gear, concrete, all of that, the return of capital, the return on invested capital, I should say, is not that compelling. It's really going to come down to the machines and being asset light. And then also having as few staff as possible that are pulling away from that expenditure onto the exahash. So when we were putting together the American Bitcoin model at the beginning of this year, we thought we were almost reimagining what a successful Bitcoin mining company would look like. So for our peers, to your point, there's somewhat of a net drag. They have a lot of full-time employees. There's very high overhead costs. They're not really watching construction costs the way we had, but we were able to divide our core competency into the mining side where we own the machines, that's American Bitcoin, and then the building and development, which Hut does. And unlike other miners where they either need to vertically integrate fully in their own business and then they're paying all the costs for everything all the time, or they're working with a hosting provider, in which case someone else is trying to charge them margin, we've got a nicely aligned relationship. It's not antagonistic, it's cooperative. Hut wants us to grow. We're their customer of first resort when it comes to Bitcoin. They would love to see us take 1, 3, 5, 10 gigawatts of Bitcoin mining offtake. And for us, we see Hut as a great partner. That's a team that's already proven out that they can build these massive facilities. And Hut 8 is not really looking to get Bitcoin returns. They want energy development returns. They want energy infrastructure returns. And that suits us just fine on the Bitcoin side.
In this video, we break down the powerful insights shared by Matt Prusak of American Bitcoin, revealing why Bitcoin is rapidly becoming the premier off-ramp from US dollar debasement and the failing fiat system. We explore how Bitcoin offers the average American a new way to protect the value of their labor, why real estate giants and major political figures are pivoting into digital. Please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. You can also check out our other videos on cryptocurrencies and the overall digital asset space, and drop your comments and observations in the comment section below. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel's growth. Thanks, and enjoy the video.